Should the Tennessee Titans trade for Micah Parsons? Well, let's talk about it. I'm your host, Jace Andrews. You're watching Titans Today, and we really do appreciate you hanging out with us on this amazing Thursday. Now, before we get into the whole Micah Parsons news and why exactly this is even an option, I do have a question, or maybe more of an ask for you. You see, the bosses, got to be honest, they haven't been exactly happy. We hit 9,000 subscribers, which was great, and I said, look, and they said it's not good enough. I don't know what's good enough. They said 200 likes, and we'll stop nagging you. So please, if I can ever ask you for one last thing, this will get them off my back for at least a month. So let's just get 200 likes on this video, because I don't want to have to worry about or else. It's not a good thing when they always say that. Let's talk about Micah Parsons, because he could potentially be on the move soon. Supposedly, there's a report come out that Micah Parsons has, quote, worn thin in Dallas, which is an interesting way to say all of this. Let's get into the actual quote here from Shane Sheriff on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, saying, quote, I've heard from way too many people this offseason. I'm talking about at least 4 different people have told me that Micah has worn thin there. I don't know how much is true and how much it actually hurts his reputation. I don't know whether this is the behavior of a typical superstar. I don't know how damaging it is. But all I do know is this. I've heard from way too many people that if Micah Parsons was out of there, there would be a decent amount of people inside the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco smiling or breathing a sigh of relief, end quote. What in the world? They literally want him to leave? That just is kind of absolutely wild when you're thinking about the star that Micah Parsons has been since coming into the National Football League. Out of Penn State, obviously a linebacker coming out of there, has turned into an edge rusher for the Dallas Cowboys and has been maybe the best edge rusher in the entire NFL since his time of joining the league. The only thing I have to say is what an addition he would be for any other team that could potentially scoop him up. Obviously, if Dallas is having any thought of trading him, I think the Tennessee Titans should be the first one to call because their defensive line, well, it's not the greatest. Now, Bree Simmons is probably the second best defensive tackle in the NFL just behind Chris Jones, but Sebastian Joseph-Day and Keandre Coburn are not starters. Keandre Coburn was on a practice squad last year for a majority of the year, and Sebastian Joseph-Day played 2 games last year with the Niners and sat the bench the rest of the entire time. I love Simmons. I think he's great, but how amazing would it be to get the edge rusher of Micah Parsons in there? He's still got 2 years remaining on his rookie contract. He's 4th in the sacks lead since entering the league in 2021, which is absolutely wild. And he's only turning 25 years old in May. This guy fits the bill for what the Titans are trying to do. Create this young to older core. It's kind of that 25 to 30 age range they're kind of going for. You talk about L'Jarius Sneed. He's 27. Obviously, there's a couple other guys that are in there more young. You got Tony Pollard in there. You got Will Levis, who, older coming out of college, but still relatively young for the NFL. Micah Parsons fits the bill for this, and obviously I know it would cost a pretty hefty amount, but let's start the question off. Do you want to trade for Micah Parsons, or maybe the reports coming out that he has not been the greatest teammate is something that you're weary of? Well, now's your time to weigh in on this question. Type Y for yes if you think that Micah Parsons would be a good addition. Type in for no if you do not want this to happen. I would rather just see him stay in Dallas. You can't lie with stats, though. This kid has been absolutely exceptional pretty much his entire career. You go back to 2021, 13 sacks. He increased it by a half sack in 2022, and then did the exact same thing in 2023 by increasing his sack total by a half a sack. 3 forced fumbles, 1. His tackles have always been there. He's been a really solid player for the Dallas Cowboys in what has slowly and surely became a top-tier defense up until last year with Dan Quinn. Obviously, I feel like Dan Quinn had a very, very much a hand in that. So obviously, the question that we can take out of this, what would the price tag be for Micah Parsons? How much would the Titans actually have to give up for one of the top defensive linemen in all of the NFL? One of the top edge rushers that we've seen in terms of prospect level in maybe a decade? Well, we'll answer that question in just a moment. Before that, let's tell you about one of our amazing sponsors, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is your one-stop shop for daily fantasy sports. And right now, you can get a $100 deposit match by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now, obviously, I know football season is not in session, but guess what? They've got a ton of different stat types for other sports like NBA, MLB, NHL. They've got a bunch of stuff going on right now. But the positive side to all of this, football is on its way back. And so Prize Picks, they've got their season-long totals already in here. And so I'm going the new Tennessee wide receiver Calvin Ridley. Of course I'm taking his more on receiving yards. You got Will Levis. You got Ridley, who had over 1,000 yards last year with Trevor Lawrence, who, by the way, didn't have a great year. I'm taking the more on that every single day. And then Deontay Johnson has as a quarterback in Bryce Young, so I don't know how that's going to go. So I'm going to go less. I just don't think that's going to work out too well. Plus Deontay, let's say, had his kerfuffles with the Pittsburgh Steelers, as most of their receivers do. Either way, though, go check it out. There's a bunch of different sports stat types. The Masters is going right now. They've got some stuff for that for each round. And you can get that $100 deposit match by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using code CLNS. Now, obviously, if you're playing some basketball, well, guess what? They have injury insurance, so your injury will stay in play even if one of your players for the basketball games gets injured and exits the game in the first half and then does not return in the second. That player projection won't count against you, and the rest of the injury will stay alive. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS as you see it down there on your screen. And using code CLNS, you're going to get that first deposit match for up to $100. We'll put that link in the comments in the description of this video. The answer to the question, an insane asking price, was what it would take, which makes it honestly nearly impossible to try and maneuver this trade and try and get it to work out. However, I have not known Ran Carthon to not try things. And so here's kind of what I would expect it to cost and what I've seen from around the league, along with just discussing things with the Chat Sports team and along with our Cowboys host. Micah Parsons heads to Tennessee, and the Cowboys would receive 2 first-round picks, one in 2025, one in 2026, and a second-round pick in 2025 as well. So, honestly, you look at this trade's just not worth it, just to be quite frank, because let's say you do that. You will now not have a pick in 2025 until the 4th round. That will be your first pick. Yeah, you'll have Micah Parsons, but DeAndre Hopkins is in the last year of his deal. What if he doesn't return? There's a lot of ifs that you just cannot place so much on one player. If the Titans were in a situation where one player could get them to the Super Bowl, win the AFC South, get them to the playoffs, yeah, maybe you make that. But I don't know that we're 100% certain that it's one player. So it's not worth it. You can't do that right now as an organization, as just a team as a whole. You've been building up piece by piece and piece. This basically puts all your chips in the next 1 to 2 years. And if you don't get it in these next 1 to 2 years, you're donezo. It's going to be a rough couple years after that. However, there is another trade that I think the Titans would actually consider. Now, there are rumors swirling about this one that if Joe Alt is not there at pick number 7, where the Tennessee Titans are currently slated to pick, the Titans would consider trading back. I know we've talked about this multiple times before, but now that's actually becoming a pretty real possibility. Matt Miller of ESPN released some of the latest draft rumors, and he had this to say. Quote, one of the most popular mock draft picks this year is the Titans selecting Alt at number 7, and there's definitely interest there. Tennessee brought the big left tackle in for a pre-draft 30 visit and met with him at the Combine, according to team sources. Sometimes it's easy to connect the dots, and this pick feels like a foregone conclusion as long as Alt is still on the board when the Titans pick. But what if he's already gone? That's where things get interesting. I'm told the Titans would consider trading back and perhaps targeting Penn State's Fashanu or Taliese Fuaga from Oregon State, end quote. So here's your top 3 draft targets for the Tennessee Titans then, if that is 100% correct, which obviously we can't make sure it is. But you have Joe Alt, Fashanu, and then Taliese Fuaga. So there you go. There are the 3 guys that you could see potentially being taken by the Tennessee Titans. However, I've seen some rumblings on Twitter. I've seen some comments in our videos. Is that really what you want the Titans to do? Because I have the question, if Joe Alt is gone, what's the plan? Do you want Fashanu? Do you want them to find another tackle? J.C. Latham, Taliese, somebody go out there and get a tackle? Is that really the most important thing? Or you have the number 7 overall pick. Do you go another position? Do you go other places? Maybe a Malik Neighbors, a Brock Bowers, something of that nature? That's a thought to be had. If you want another tackle, if Alt is not there, then type T for tackle. If If you want an other position, somebody else, a wide receiver, a tight end, then type O for other. My answer is pretty simple. You have to go offensive tackle. However, I think you can do this in multiple ways. As he mentioned, if Alt is not there and you want to go a tackle, which you certainly need to because this offensive line has been terrible. Lloyd Cushenberry was a great addition. Peter Skoronski, one of the best rated tackles that we've ever seen coming out of the draft. But then, past that, it's just a lot of question marks. Nicholas Petit-Frere, Dana Brunskill, Dylan Redunz. I know there's a lot of talk about moving some of these guys around. The only guy who's really safe is Cushenberry at center, obviously, given he signed that contract that broke records for centers. But you think about this. If you need to get a tackle, which I think you do, then if you don't have Alt at pick number 7, you trade back. It's very simple. You trade back with the Raiders, with the Vikings, with somebody, and you get either potentially, I mean, this would be a stretch depending on the team, an extra first-round pick for maybe either this year or next year, or the more likely scenario, you trade back and you get an extra second-round pick. This is a very deep wide receiver draft class. We all know that, and I think that's good for the Titans. You need a tackle, you need a wide receiver. So here's what you do. You trade back, you get Olu, you get Taliese, you get JC, whatever, and then in the second round, you have the option for 2 picks. You take a wide receiver, a Troy Franklin, a Tez Walker, something of that nature, maybe even a Keon Coleman, and then your second pick, you can get a defensive interior lineman. That way, you're not having to trade for Micah Parsons, or a defensive edge, rather. And that way, you're not trading for Micah Parsons. You just drafted him instead. That's just my opinion, though. Let me know if you agree with that. I think that's the best way the Titans should go about this. But, hey, I am not Ran Carthon, so I cannot tell you what's going to happen. We do appreciate you watching, though, and hopefully we can provide some insight to the Tennessee Titans as much as possible. If you're interested at all, you want some more content, hit that subscribe button, youtube.com/Titans Today. I would certainly appreciate it. That's what we got for you today, Titans fans. Tighten up and peace out.